Bob Dylan shocked his fans in 1979. Between songs at a concert, he stopped playing and started preaching. Then he named names. He called out one band specifically. He said they sold their soul for entertainment. This wasn't just about music anymore. Dylan had become a born-again Christian, and he believed rock bands were dragging kids to hell. The man who rebelled against everything was now condemning rebellion itself. For someone who built his career on breaking rules, this attack revealed a side off the lane nobody expected. Bob Dylan was born Robert Allen Zimmerman on May 24, 1941, in a small hospital in Duluth, Minnesota. Weighing 7 pounds and 13 he came into the world with a name few would ever associate with fame. But before he became Bob Dylan, the legend, he was a quiet boy from a tight-knit Jewish family trying to hold on to their roots in a land that never fully welcomed them. His Hebrew name was Shabtai Zissel ben Abraham. Bed means something, Shabbai for the Sabbath, Zissel meaning sweet. His father Abba came from a line of Jewish immigrants who had escaped the violence of Odessa, Russia. In Duluth, they kept kosher, went to the synagogue, and sent young Robert to Hebrew school. He spent summers at Camp Herschel in Wisconsin, where he first played the harmonica and guitar with other Jewish kids. His bar mitzvah in 1954 wasn't just big, it was legendary. 400 guests showed up in tiny hip. Since the town didn't have a rabbi, they brought one in from Brooklyn. Dylan later said the rabbi seemed like a ghost. He came, did the job, and vanished. Then polio struck. In 1947, when Dylan was just 6, Abe Zimmerman's life changed forever. He'd been an athlete, a man who loved sports, but polio left him with a limp and he couldn't keep working for Standard Oil in Duluth. The family packed up and moved 86 miles northwest to Hibbing, a mining town scarred by the open-pit iron mines that swallowed up the landscape. There, Abe and his brother spawned a furniture and appliance store. It was gritty, it was working gas, and it became Dylan's new world. Inside their home on 7th Avenue East, a blue stucco house with a red door, Dylan discovered radio. In the 1940s, there was no TV, just sound waves and static. That's when he heard Hank Williams. Not just the hits, it was Williams's alter ego, Luke the Drifter, that hit Dylan hardest. Moral tales, spoken word, grit, he played that record over and over. It went through me like an electric rod, Hesed. Williams died in 1953. Dylan was 11, but that voice never left him. Hesed, he could drift away for hours, convinced in the goodness of man. By high school, Dylan was already trying in different skins. He joined garage bands and called himself Gun, sometimes with 2 N's, sometimes 3. He liked the sound of Robert Allen, but it felt too normal. After hearing jazz singer David Allen, he toyed with spelling his name Allen instead. Then he found Dylan Thomas, the Welsh poet. That clicked. Robert Dylan, Bob Dylan. The name rolled off his tongue by instinct. He didn't plan it. Someone asked his name one night and it just came out. Bob Dylan. Later in 1962, he made it official. But's truth, he told the world, was often a lie. Dylan liked to say he was an orphan, that he had no ties, that he rode the rails and lived off scraps. But his family had money. Not extravagant wealth, but enough. The furniture store in Hibbing made them respected. His dad was president of the local B'nai B'rith. His mother led the local Hadassah. Their house was solid. Their names known. This background didn't fit the image Dylan wanted, so he erased it. He needed to be a wanderer, a mystery. In 1960, he dropped out of the University of Minnesota after just 1 year. He didn't leave to chase fame. He left to find aiding man. Woody Guthrie, his hero, was wasting away from Huntington's disease. In New Jersey Psychiatric Hospital, Dylan made a pilgrimage. He visited Guthrie at Greystone Hospital, just Tazet near him. He watched his idol tremble, struggling to speak. To Dylan, this was holy ground. He later wrote that Guthrie's songs held the infinite sweep of humanity. Guthrie didn't just write music. He carried America's soul. Dylan wanted to be that vessel. He landed in New York on January 24, 1961, with nothing but a guitar, a harmonica, and blind hope. That first night, he barged into Café Wa and asked to play. Snow still clung to his shoulders. Hessin Guthrie songs to a near-empty room. He slept on couches. He was cold. He was broke. He sent letters back home saying had nothing. But he kept playing. Putanani's basement coffee shops. He made the rounds in the village. His clothes were ragged, but people saw something raw and real. Then, on September 29, 1961, a review changed everything. Robert Shelton of the New York Times saw Dylan perform at Gertie's Folk City. Dylan was opening for a bluegrass band, the Greenbrier Boys. But Shelton's review wasn't just positive, it was glowing. He called Dylan one of the most distinctive stylists to hit Manhattan in months. That single review caught fire. Within days, John Hammond at Columbia Records signed him, but Notavarian at Columbia was convinced. When Hammond brought Dylan in on October 26, 1961, the label laughed. They called it Hammond's Folly. One executive even said Dylan's music was the worst thing he'd ever heard. Hammond defended him. He said Dylan wasn't polished, wasn't a good singer or even a good guitarist, but he was different. Hammond Belly of Dylan could reach a lost generation. He just wanted the studio to capture who Dylan really was. The first album nearly proved everyone else right. Bob Dylan, his debut, came out on March 19, 1962. It flopped. Recorded in just 2 short sessions. It cost about $42 to make. Dylan only had 2 original songs on it. The rest were old folk and blues standards. He refused to do 7 takes. He hissed into the mic, wandered off pitch, and popped every P. Hammond was frustrated. Dylan hated the final cut. It sold just 5,000 copies in the first year. Some say only 2,500. He was crushed. The label was humiliated. Dylan even considered quitting music. Bob Dylan wrote, "The times they are a-changing," in September 1963, meant for it to sound like a message from the people, even if it was carefully crafted. When his friend Tony Glover read the line, "Come, senators, congressmen, please heed the call," he's Dylan, "What is this, man?" Dylan simply replied, "Well, you know, it seems to be what the people want to hear." The song used biblical language, borrowing from the Gospel of Mark, "Thy first will be last." It felt spiritual and political at the same time. Dylan performed the song 633 times between 1963 and 2009. That made it his 23rd most played song ever. It became an unofficial anthem during the civil rights movement and the protests against the Vietnam War. Over time, the song's meaning shifted. Literary critic Christopher Ricks pointed out that in the 1960s the message was aimed at uptight parents, whose kids were becoming hippies. By the early 2000s it had flipped. Now it was about those Sam hippies, realizing their kids had become polished yuppies. But Dylan never wanted to be anyone's leader. People kept calling him a protest singer, and he started pushing back. In May 1963, CBS told him not to perform. Talking John Birch Paranoid Blues on The Ed Sullivan Show. Rather than censor himself, Dylan walked off. A few months later, in December 1963, he shocked the audience at a civil liberties dinner. Only 3 weeks after JFK's assassination, he gave a drunken, strange speech and said he saw something of himself in Lee Harvey. It did not go over well. When asked later about the free speech protests at Berkeley, he brushed them off and said, "I don't have to put up with any teachers. I don't have to take any tests." By 1965, when Sing Out magazine asked if he supported student protests or Black Power movements, he said, "No." Even Noam Chomsky noted that Dylan seemed like the perfect figure for a capitalist PR machine. Not a radical, Dylan himself admitted, "I just can't have people sit around and make rules. For me, I don't want to write for people anymore." In public, Dylan looked like a folk purist, but behind the scenes, he was drawing from completely different wells. At Columbia Records, John Hammond gave him an old album of Robert Johnson's blues recordings. It changed everything. Dylan copied Johnson's style so closely that critics were stunned. His 1962 track, "Quit Your Low-Down Ways," sounded almost like a remix of Johnson's Terraplane Blues and Stones in My Pat. He also deeply admired Hank Williams, calling him the country Shakespeare. In liner notes for Joan Baez's record, Dylan even wrote a tribute, "And my first idol was Hank Williams, for he sang about Thurl Road lines." These early influences didn't show up until years later when Dylan finally released Nashville Skyline, the late 1960s. Critics admitted they had never heard anything like it, not even from other country artists. Then came the night that changed everything. July 25, 1965, Newport Folk Festival. Dylan stepped on stage with a Fender Stratocaster, backed by the Paul Butterfield Blues Band. The crowd expected protest songs and acoustic guitars. What they got was raw electric noise. He opened with Maggie's Farm. The crowd booed. People screamed "Traitor" and "Sell Out." According to legend, folk icon Pete Seeger was so furious he grabbed an axe and tried to cut the sound cables. Seeger later said he only hated the poor sound quality. But the damage was done. After just 3 songs, Dylan was forced off stage. He returned with an acoustic and ended with, "It's all over now, baby blue." That song title felt like a message, not just to the audience, but to his former self. The night was later called the night that split the 60s. Ironically, just 5 days before that performance, Dylan had released Like a Rolling Stone. No one expected it to be a hit. I blew up the little block that came with it. After that, we added a large block and a few nitrous hits to it. The game began to change at that point. A farm tractor believed that he would get wealthy by dealing with outlaws. Rather, it almost ended his life. Despite having a physical ailment that paralyzed half of his face, he smiled for years. He concealed the hand injury that caused his PTSD. As producers reduced his TV time, he watched newer racers replace him. His own program was canceled. His sales of items declined. The 59-year-old guy who contributed to the creation of a racing empire was being removed from it. The saddest thing is that he didn't anticipate it until it was too late. Sean Whitley was born in Oklahoma City on March 29, 1966. There was something fierce and competitive about him right from the start. Since he was an Aries, practically everything in his life will be influenced by that energy. It is well known that Aries individuals are fearless, quick-witted, and constantly strive to be the first. Sean was no different. He is still seeking the same excitement at the age of 58. But stardom wasn't the beginning of his story. It began with a burning truck and a flashlight. Sean's father's 1956 Ford pickup became his entire universe when he was just 12 years old. He wasn't yet operating it though. Rather, he was using a flashlight to initiate unlawful street races while he stood in the center of Route 66. At stoplights, the dirt track racing powertrain in that truck would literally catch fire. Like the races it helped start, it was noisy, harsh, and unpredictable. Sean leaned perilously close, studying everything as he watched his bigger brothers speed down the road in fully equipped muscle cars. He developed an obsession with the gearshifter's motion. He began to see how minor adjustments to timing or handling may have a big impact. His instincts as a builder and racer were molded by these experiences. His mother also had a role to play. In her 1974 Dodge Dart, she gave him a driving lesson. It was not ostentatious. Although it wasn't quick, it was dependable. Sean learned something from that automobile that most racers never do. To understand power, you don't have to start with power. The engine of the Dart was a 225 cubic inch slant six. Sean gained a sense of control and mechanics from it, even if it may not have been designed for speed. He learned patience from it. It made him realize that appearances aren't always what's inside, and he never forgot that lesson. Sean was operating his dad's 1973 Ford pickup around town when he was just 12 years old. It was real, even though it wasn't legal or typical. There was more to that truck than just transportation. It served as a symbol. It bound Sean to the street, to his father, and to the notion that strength could emerge from apparent weakness. Other children his age were riding bicycles. Sean was gaining experience operating a full-size truck. He would go on to claim that this vintage Ford pickup influenced him more than any race car ever could. He fell in love with the forgotten, the rusty, and the underdog. A child like Sean would have thrived in Oklahoma City. There were no large budgets for the racing community. There were no factory sponsors for them. They had grit instead. Everyone contributed pieces, advice, and anecdotes. Sean figured out how to make it work. You fixed things when they break. You made things fit if they didn't. Above all, you had an advantage if someone underestimated you. He got into the habit of praising the gleaming automobiles of other racers while being silent about his own. This was strategy, not simply charisma. He referred to it as fishing. And it was successful. Everything changed in 1998. In Out magazine, Sean noticed a small advertisement. The text read, "Very fast truck for sale." Just 5 words. No elaborate explanation or images. He observed a weathered 1970 Chevy C10 when he arrived after calling. The majority would have left. Although it appeared to be rubbish, Sean didn't give a damn. He saw possibilities. Sean recognized that the truck had previously undergone modifications and that this could serve as his basis. This wasn't a crazy risk of $30,000. It was a wise purchase. A race truck with hidden worth that is only partially constructed. The world would come to know the truck as the Farmtruck. Sean didn't alter the Farmtruck, which is what makes it unique. It was not sanded down by him. He left it unpainted. He made no effort to make it appear attractive. He kept the rust. Instead, he retained the dents. Even the ancient camper shell was his. However, he constructed a monster underneath. A well-tuned, big-block V8 engine made this unwieldy truck a serious contender. A joke has become a weapon. Thanks to Sean, the truck even featured a Sleeping Zoo's license plate. But the laughter ceased as soon as it took off. On the street, people consistently underestimated it. That was the idea. The goal was to give individuals a sense of confidence before erasing their smiles. Sean was an expert at driving a sleeper car, which seemed to be nothing more than a car that hits everything. It was more than just ingenious. It was a battle of the mind, and it was successful. He had learned how to read people from Route 66. It was more than simply tires and engines. It has to do with time, confidence, and behavior. Sean was able to spot bluffs. He could sense their nervousness. He was dangerous because of that. He was more than just a motor racer. He was a racer. He had learned to observe everything. From his years of using a flashlight while standing in the middle of the road, Sean had no intention of becoming famous. He simply had a passion for racing. It began in the underground scene of Oklahoma City, where you had to gain respect by winning one game at a time. It was there that he met Ann. The two clicked right away. Neither their appearance nor their behavior was characteristic of racers, but they had something genuine together. They began to attract notice because they never gave up and always had something ingenious to offer, not because they had the most ostentatious vehicles. When they started holding races for common people, their relationship grew stronger. These weren't professionals with limitless funds. These were the regular drivers you saw on the road. They were given a platform by Sean and Ann. They were no longer only racing. They had a movement underway. Sean was more than just a racer because of that. He turned become a role model for others. He currently has a net worth of about $500,000. All of it resulted from transforming unadulterated street passion into something enduring. In 2013, everything changed. Street Outlaws was introduced by Discovery Channel at that time. Sean had no desire to become famous. In his city, he already had a name. He entered the casting call. However, in 10th place on a list of the fastest racers, new racers have to scale the wall to get on the list because of him. Sean didn't just hold it, even though it wasn't an easy location to hold. He gained popularity among fans. The show was a huge success. Sean was also unforgettable due to his easygoing demeanor, sardonic humor, and indisputable talent. His truck was what truly made the difference. The 1970 Chevy C10 long bed was in poor condition. An advertisement in a magazine told him it was quick. He didn't think it was real when he saw it. It had the ugliness and age of a farm vehicle. However, as soon as he got behind the wheel, he realized it featured a digital ignition controller, a 2-stage nitrous system, and a big block V8. Fire was concealed beneath rust. It had a quarter-mile time of 10.7 seconds. Speed, like that, typically costs 10 times as much. Louise, his dog, was always in the passenger seat, which was even better. People adored that. A truck that might blast your doors off, a man, and his dog. He became a legend for that reason. Sean served as the gatekeeper for Street Outlaws' inaugural season. He had to be overcome by every new racer. He was pursued by names like Tina Pierce, who was dubbed the quickest female racer in Oklahoma, and Brandon Frayne-Ryken, but he maintained his lead. He never lost his place. He remained modest and let the races speak for themselves. Hundreds of thousands of people began watching his videos. His merchandise began to sell. Sean had developed into more than just a racer by the end of the season. People wanted to support him because he was the type. Sean gained the drive to grow as a result of his achievements on TV and in races. He was not merely racing. Now, he was modifying automobiles. His truck was transferred to Hot Rods to Hell in California by his shop. They replaced the original crate engine with a 632 cubic inch beast that produced more than 1,000 horsepower. It included a 9-inch quick performance rear axle, a Rossler transmission, and 2 levels of nitrous. In addition to making it strong, he also made it stable. QA1, it remained grounded by shocks. Sean didn't stop there, either. In Oklahoma City, he established the F&A Firehouse. In addition to being a garage, it's a fan destination. It offers merchandise. It attracts tourists. It sustains the brand. Every day from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., the F&A Firehouse is open for business. Through an agreement with Tri-City Clothing, they sell everything from sweaters to shirts. Blaze, Ignite, and Reflect are the names of the 3 apparel brands they produced. Due to strong demand, orders take about 12 days to process. They even provide USPS, shipping, and local delivery. It's more than just a shop, it's a home base. Fans go there to see the store, get to know the guys, and have a sense of belonging. Sean has also left his mark online. There are currently 430,000 subscribers to his YouTube account. More than 6.6 million people have viewed the more than 580 films that have been posted. The information is private. Shop walkthroughs, automobile trips, and behind-the-scenes glimpses. It goes beyond a side gig. It's a complete platform that generates actual revenue from sponsors and advertisements. An inside reference to the area code of Oklahoma City was made when he once conducted a promotion to target 405,000 members with a shopping coupon. In this way, he maintains a local focus while expanding his following across the country. Sean has had highs and lows on the track, although he has 5 victories and 19 defeats in official list races. His Street Outlaws record doesn't fully reflect the situation. Sean is a long-term player. In order to get rivals to place bets, he minimizes the speed of his truck. That's how he fishes. He has performed better in other races. He raced a Jeep named Penny in Street Wars, finishing 5th with 8 victories and 4 defeats. Ann, who finished 10th with 7 victories and 5 loses, was not far behind in another Jeep, the Jeeper Sleeper. Ann even defeated Big Chief and Daddy Dave in the daily driving competition. Prize money and appearance fees were earned from these victories. Although Sean doesn't disclose precise figures, people who know him well know that the money is consistent. They didn't appear to be very much. 2 unusual dudes and a dilapidated truck. However, Farmtruck and Ann offered something unexpected to their high-priced competitors when they appeared at a street race: humor, humility, and an effective plan of action. These 2 teams concentrated on extracting every last bit of power from cars that appeared to belong in a junkyard, while other teams invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in svelte, specially designed race cars. The sleeper strategy was the name given to it, a truck with a simple appearance that had undergone extensive tuning. Just raw power and a few cunning tricks, no fancy paint jobs or spoilers. In addition to being a race, it was psychological warfare. The opposition would chuckle till they were defeated. Everyone was taken aback by their performance. They did pretty damn well, according to Ann, and he was right. Although the Farmtruck's Chevy long bed wasn't particularly attractive, it frequently outperformed race-ready saloons. They were competitive in addition to being entertaining, particularly in the early seasons of Street Outlaws, when the program focused on actual street racing rather than just expensive battles. In Texas, they achieved one of their largest victories. It was Texas versus Oklahoma. A Corvette was in line with a farm vehicle. No one was expecting much, yet that old truck abandoned the Corvette as the light went out. The audience erupted. It wasn't merely a victory, it was evidence.